He was 28, built like a statue, bouncing nightclubs in Sydney and flashing money like life had no limits. Then, in July 2015, everything imploded. Two men were shot dead inside a Melbourne apartment, both linked to the city's violent drug underworld. Police called it a calculated double murder. Antonio Bagnato called it self-defense. What followed exposed a hidden world of beaky wars, meth money, and ruthless ambition. At the time, Melbourne was in the middle of an underworld bloodbath. With more than 70 gangland figures killed between 2015 and 2019, Bagnato went from fast cash to a global manhunt. From Instagram flexes to a life sentence with 33 years minimum. This is the case that ended it all. Imagine this. You're 28 years old, a Sydney bodybuilder with a sculpted frame, permanent tan, and money coming in fast. Nights are spent bouncing at King's Cross clubs, days at the gym, weekends partying like nothing can touch you. Life feels untouchable. Then one night in Melbourne, everything collapses. Two men end up deadshot execution style, not random victims, but serious players linked to Melbourne's brutal drug wars. Police call it a double murder. Antonio Bagnato insists it was self-defense, but the evidence tells a very different story. What unfolds turns a beach body enforcer into a man sentenced to die in prison. This isn't fiction. This is Antonio Bagnato's descent from fast money to a life behind bars. How a Sydney enforcer walked into Melbourne's war zone. Rewind to 2015. Antonio Bagnato is already living on the edge. Born in Sydney to Italian migrant parents, he grows up obsessed with strength and status. By his late 20s, he's a solid 100 kilos of muscle. Working nightclub doors and drifting deeper into the criminal orbit, strippers, drug runners, low-level dealers. But Antonio isn't satisfied with scraps. He wants influence, power, serious money. That's where the Comancheros come in. One of Australia's most feared outlaw motorcycle gangs, led in Melbourne by the Pasilicious brothers. In Melbourne, that city is burning. Meth is flooding the streets. Beaky gangs, the Comancheros, Mongols, rebels are locked in open warfare. Between 2015 and 2019, more than 70 underworld figures are shot dead. For someone like Bagnato, it looks like opportunity. He starts moving drugs, providing muscle, doing the dirty work. But Antonio doesn't fit the Melbourne mold. He's not the rough, weathered, beaky stereotype. He's polished, flashy, designer clothes. Tattoos, yes, but more nightclub influencer than outlaw biker. No beard, no Harley obsession. Witnesses later describe him as loud with money, always dressed to impress. That outsider energy doesn't sit well with Melbourne's old school. Criminal sand that tension matters. Now jump to July 13th, 2015. Antonio is staying at a South Yarra, apartment-tan, upscale suburb that feels far removed from the violence gripping the city. He's there with his cousin, Joy Andy Tran, another Comancero associate. That night, two men arrive. Sean McKinnon, 29, a mechanic with deep Mongols connections, heavily involved in the drug trade. Andrew Lepore, 25, a roofer. Not a major figure, but standing in the wrong room at the wrong time. They've come to settle something. Accounts later point to a dispute involving either a $100,000 meth debt or escalating tension between rival gangs. Words turn hostile. Shoves follow. According to Bagnato, McKinnon pulls a gun. What happens next becomes the center of the case. Antonio overpowers him. At point-blank range, he fires a single shot into McKinnon's chest. Lepore panics and runs for the door. He never makes it. Bagnato chases him down and fires again, this time into the back of his head. The apartment is chaos. Blood everywhere. Tran panics. Together, they load both bodies into the boot of a stolen BMW. The car is driven to Avondale Heights, dumped in bushes off Buckley Street. Inside, police later find the bodies slumped together, riddled with bullets. No cleanup. No sophistication. Just raw violence and panic. By morning, the BMW is discovered. Ballistics identified two weapons, a .357 Magnum and a .45 ACP. Forensic teams find gunshot residue on Bagnato's hands, blood traces on his clothing. Within hours, Antonio Bagnato disappears, triggering one of Melbourne's most explosive underworld murder investigations, and this is only the beginning, the manhunt. From Australia to Italy and straight back to court, Bagnato doesn't disappear into the bush or lay low up north. He thinks bigger, international. At first he hides out in Sydney, but the pressure builds fast. Police are circling, and the Comancheros, they vanish. No protection. No loyalty. No calls returned. Here's the reality: people don't like admitting beaky loyalty is a myth. The moment heat shows up, survival comes first. Bagnato dyes his hair, shaves down his look, tries to blend in. It doesn't work. By August 2015, he's gone. Thailand first. Then Italy, Calabria, where his family comes from. He's moving on fake passports, staying in comfort, hitting the gym, even posting photos online like nothing's happened. Arrogant, absolutely. But it buys him time. Victoria police respond with Operation Bengal. Hundreds of officers. International warrants. Interpol alerts. This isn't cooling down. It's escalating. 6 months later, February 2016, Italian police track him to a luxury villa near Reggio Calabria. He's arrested without drama. Then comes the legal tug of war. Italy delays extradition, raising human rights concerns. Bagnato fights it hard, claiming political persecution. That argument goes nowhere. By May 2017, he's back in Melbourne, charged with 2 counts of murder. And here's the part that sums him up perfectly while the world is hunting him. Bagnato is still flexing on Instagram. Gym shots, smug captions, living my best life. A global manhunt is underway, and he's posting like a fitness influencer. The confidence isn't bravery. It's pure hubris. Courtroom carnage, self-defensor, a professional hit. The trial begins in 2019 at the Supreme Court of Victoria. Prosecutor Ben C. lays it out plainly: Antonio Bagnato isn't a victim. He's a common Caro enforcer. A hired gun? The evidence stacks up quickly. CCTV captures Bagnato and Tran dragging bodies through the apartment. Phone records place him at the scene. Then comes a key witness, Tran's girlfriend, who tells the jury Bagnato admitted what he'd done, saying, "I had to do it, they were coming for us." Forensics finished the job. McKinnon's gun, empty, no immediate threat. Poor, completely unarmed. Shot while running away, Bagnato's defense leans hard into self-defense. He takes the stand himself, calm, confident, almost relaxed. He paints the picture of an ambush, says they burst in aggressive weapons drawn, says he feared for his life. He even reenacts the struggle, showing off the muscle he's maintained behind bars. Claims Tran helped clean up out of loyalty, but the story doesn't hold. There's no sign of forced entry. Text messages prove the meeting was planned. His past comes into focus: violent bouncer incidents, steroid-fueled outbursts. Common Caro tattoos tying him directly to organized crime. The jury isn't convinced. In July 2019, Antonio Bagnato is found guilty on both counts of murder. At sentencing, Justice Peter Kidd doesn't soften a word. "You are a dangerous criminal who gunned down 2 men in an act of gratuitous violence." The sentence is life imprisonment with a 33-year non-parole period. No shortcuts. No early release. In Victoria, this is as hard as it gets. Twists, appeals, and the long shadow of the underworld even then. It doesn't end. In 2021, Bagnato appeals, claiming jury bias and media contamination. The court rejects it. In 2023, he sues the state for $1 million, alleging brutal treatment inside Barwin, prison solitary confinement, assaults. The case is dismissed, and the letters don't help him. Leaked prison correspondence shows no remorse, just anger, entitlement, and talk of retaliation. He's still thinking like an outlaw, still talking loyalty, still dangerous. Step back, and Bagnato's story becomes a snapshot of Australia's beaky wars. After 2015, the crackdown intensifies in Tycoon sorting laws, unexplained wealth seizures, mass arrests. The Comancheros fracture. Leaders, including the Pasilicious brothers, end up behind bars, yet the violence doesn't disappear. Even in 2024, fresh hits make headlines. Bagnato isn't an anomaly. He's a product of the era. Compare him to Pasquale Barber, another common Caro heavyweight, another gym-obsessed enforcer, another life sentence tied to meth trafficking. Same mindset, same ending. So what if self-defense were real? In some fantasy version of justice, maybe. But in Melbourne, 2015, that argument collapses. This wasn't panic. This wasn't survival. This was execution. And that's how Antonio Bagnato went from 2 murders to a life that will end behind prison walls. Legacy. From flashy enforcer to a life no one sees. It's 2026 now. Antonio Bagnato is 39 years old, locked away in Victoria's maximum security system, Barwin or Loden. No public visits. No phone freedom. No spotlight. Just concrete, routine, and time that doesn't move. Inside, the stories circulate. He's supposedly bulked up even more, found his place in the prison hierarchy. A yard presence. A man others keep an eye on, but none of that matters. Whatever status exists behind bars ends at the gate. Freedom is gone for good. What remains are 2 graves in Avondale Heights. That's the real footprint he leaves behind. 2 lives erased and families left to carry it. Sean McKinnon's mother once described her son as my gentle giant. Andrew Lapora's siblings are left with a hole that never closes. No sentence balances that loss. And that's the warning baked into this case. The underworld sells ambition like a shortcut money. Power, respect. Bagnato bought into it completely. From Sydney beaches to Melbourne's criminal war zone, chase the common Caro dream all the way to a cage, and that's where it ends.